Hello, I am Vigri and welcome back to the video series about how to fly in X-Plane. In this video I'm going to show you how to properly calibrate and set up your input hardware like joystick or yoke. And as we have quite a lot to cover, then let's get started. In X-Plane, to set up the yoke or joystick, you use the settings, joystick and equipment dialog. And once opened, you will see a window with 6 tabs on it. The axis tab, null zone tab, buttons basic tab, buttons advanced tab, keys, and equipment tabs. And in this video series, I'm going to use the axis, null zone, and buttons basic because that's all we need to set up the keys we are going to use. So let's start with the axis tab then. Actually, the axis tab has quite a nice instructions written on the upper side of the window, and actually we are pretty much following these. In order to start to set up the joystick or yoke, the first step is to actually click on the Calibrate joystick hardware button. Let's do so. Now X-Plane expects us to move our joystick or yoke through all its axis full range of motion. So let's take it one by one. For example, first the pitch angle or the attitude angle, and the purpose is that we push the yoke or joystick as far as we can, and then we pull it back to center, and then we pull it back as far as we can. And now we can release and make sure that the bar that moves is assigned to the pitch function. So lots of functions here, and X-Plane is intelligent enough that it already figured out that this is a pitch angle. Let's do the same with the roll. We roll it all the way to the left, and then we roll it all the way to the right, and then we move it to the center and make sure that this bar is assigned to roll. Next is the throttle. Let's see what bar is moving. Move it all the way through and make sure this one is set to throttle. Next one is prop, which you might have or might not have. I have a Cytec throttle quadrant here, and we have a prop here, and we do the same with the mixture. And the same we are going to do with the rudder pedals, if you have rudder pedals, or if you have joystick with a twist, then you can use that twist to set the yaw, so that push the rudder pedals all the way from one end to the other end, and assign that bar to yaw. And next is the toe brakes, left toe brake and right toe brake. So they are now assigned, and make sure that the function is correct. So now we have pretty much covered the axis, and we are checking the reverse check marks later when we are going to verify the axis, but let them be the way they are right now. Next, let's skip the null zone tab and let's go straight to the buttons basic. But before we get to that, let me give you a brief overview about different ways of setting up the buttons. I have experience with two different controls Cytec Pro flight yoke and Cytec Cyborg Evo joystick. And let's go through the Cytec Pro flight yoke first. Here you got a picture of the Pro flight yoke. It has two handlebars, left and right, and also the throttle quadrant. And let's start from the left handlebar. First, you see that it has the hat switch on the left hand side, so we can assign the view commands to that hat switch. Next, on the left hand side, you also have the rocker switch, which goes up and down, and I would recommend to set the trim function to this rocker switch. The reasoning behind that is that when you push the yoke away from you, then you push the nose down. So when you push the rocker switch up, or let's say away from you, then you also trim the nose down, so that when you push the yoke away, you push the nose down. When you click the rocker switch away, you trim the nose down. And the same is the nose up. When you pull the yoke, you pull the nose up, and when you pull the trim switch, then you trim the nose up, so that these go hand in hand. Next, let's move to the right hand side. There is a nice round button that I use to assign pause function. Very good. In the middle of a sim, whatever comes up, I can easily pause the sim. And another button that I use to assign is the rocker switch that goes left and right, and I assign usually the quick views to that button, so that the hat switch on the left hand side is for fine-grained view setting, and when I need to swing fast to the left or right, for example search the runway or view what is on my side, then I can use the rocker switch on the right hand side. Now let's move on to the throttle quadrant, and actually we are not going to set many buttons here. I am only going to assign the flaps button. The first switch on the left, it has two buttons. The upper button is flaps up, all flaps retract, and lower button is flaps down or flaps extend. So and another way of assigning buttons is, for example, when you have a joystick. So here we have a Cytec Cyborg Evo joystick picture, and of course one thing is that it has a nice throttle lever, so you assign the throttle to that, but there are lots of buttons on the head of the joystick. So of course it has the hat switch, which we assign view command to, and then the flaps and trim buttons. First, on the one side you have the flaps down, and immediately below that you have a trim nose down, and on the other side you have a flaps up and trim nose up button. Why so? The thing is that whenever you extend the flaps or click the flaps down, you immediately need to trim nose down in order to maintain the established flight path. And on the other way, if you extend the retract the flaps or move the flaps up, then you need to pull the nose up or trim the nose up to maintain the established flight path. So that is the logic how you assign the buttons, or at least that is my opinion about how to assign them. You can assign the buttons however you wish. So let's get back to the joystick and equipment dialog here. And with the buttons basic tab, we can actually assign all the buttons that I went through just moments ago. So I have a Cytec yoke here, and let's assign the view commands to the hat switch first. So the logic is that first you move or click the physical button on your hardware. And next you assign the function to it. So I click the hat switch up, and I will assign it general command tilt up. This is on the right hand side. Next is the hat switch down. As you can see on the upper left corner, the number changed. So I click the hat switch down. It has currently do nothing at all function, and I will assign the hat switch down to general command tilt down. Next, let's click the hat switch to the left. Again, do nothing at all, but I will assign it to general command pan left. And again, let's click the hat switch right and assign it to general command pan right. So now I can also verify that the hat switch is assigned correctly. Hat switch up is tilt up, hat switch down is tilt down, hat switch left is pan left, hat switch right is pan right. So next let's move to next button, the trim button. Let's click the trim button up, which actually is pitch trim down, as I explained earlier. And next I pull the rocker switch down and assign pitch trim up to that button. So pitch trim down and pitch trim up assigned. Next, let's move on to the right handlebar, which I want to assign simulator pause function. I click the button, and now I go and assign the pause the simulator. It is on the fourth column, sixth from the bottom. Next is the quick view. Quick view left. I click the button and assign general command pan left fast. It is on the right hand column. And the same to the pan right fast. I click the button and I assign pan right fast to it. And the only one remaining is the flaps button on the throttle quadrant. So I will click the flaps up button, and it is on the second column in the middle, flaps up a notch. And I will click the flaps down and assign the flaps down a notch. So let's verify that we have it all. So view commands tilt up, tilt down, pan left, pan right. Then on the first column, pitch trim down, pitch trim up. Then pause the simulator, that is okay. Then pan left fast and pan left right is assigned correctly. And lastly, the flaps up and flaps down. So that is assigned. So now we can go on to 3D view and view it in the cabin actually. So here we are in the cabin, and let's use the hat switch. Yes, it is moving up, it is moving down, going left, going right, very good. Then we can check if the fast panning, so fast left works, fast right works. So for example, this is fast right and hat switch left. Again, what we can do is set or try out the flaps button. flaps 10, flaps 20, flaps 30, very good. And flaps down and flaps up works. As I have everything turned off right now, then the flaps themselves didn't move. Of course, you should also verify the yoke or joystick movement. If I push the yoke forward, then it should also move forward in the simulator. If I pull back, then it should move back in the simulator. And of course, if I roll it to the left, it should move to the left, and if I roll it to the right, then it should move to the right. And now, next thing is the throttle, and you should check if the throttle moves the right way. If it doesn't move the right way, for example, if you push it to full throttle in the physical device, but in the simulator it goes the opposite way to idle, then you need to check that settings, joystick and equipment, axis tab, and that is the reverse check mark here. If you need to use it, then use it. That's what the reverse is here. And also let's check the mixture lever. Mixture lever is moving correctly. Very good. And lastly, the pedals or the yaw. Let's move it to the left. Very good. Moving, and to the right. Moving, and let's try the two brakes. Left one, right one. Very good. Everything works. And of course the last one, let's check the trimming. Interesting is that the trim doesn't move on its own. If I would start the battery or put the master switch on, then the trimming actually moves. The trim wheel in a 3D cabin actually moves when I change the trim. Okay, very good. Now it is actually time to move on to the test flight to see if you have assigned everything. Actually, we have assigned everything correctly, but we have one more thing to do. We have to check the sensitivity of the controls. And for that we actually need to take off. But as I haven't covered the takeoff techniques yet, then we need to use some other means to get airborne. But before we get to that, before we get airborne, there is one problem with actually the viewpoint in the 3D cabin. As you can see, we are actually sitting quite low. We see quite a lot of wing here, and our eyesight is pretty much in the middle of the side window. But if you look at this picture, where I am sitting in a real aircraft, and look at my eyes or the top of the window relative to my head, then my head is much higher than it actually is in the simulator right now. So to get a better view outside the aircraft and more realistic view, it is important to move our viewpoint up. So let's use an up arrow on the keyboard and move ourselves a bit up. This is more or less good, so that we can see a bit of the wingtip. And now the view is quite a bit better and much more realistic. So that thing aside, we can now let's start the airplane. Okay, we have master switch on, very good. Mixture is okay, and let's engage the starter. And add a little throttle. and the engine started just fine. You have to add a little throttle in order to start the engine. When the throttle is idle, it doesn't start. That's pretty obvious. And let's start let's set the avionics switch on as well. And now it is time to actually take off. And for that we are going to use the location menu, select global airport. I'm going to make this video series near the Tallinn airport, but you can choose whichever airport you wish. There is one request, however. Pick an airport where there is plenty of flat ground around. In the world there are plenty of areas with a flat ground. Majority of United States is flat, majority of Europe is flat, majority of Russia is flat, so that there are quite a lot of places in the world where there are no hills. So pick an airport which is not close to any kind of mountains. Once the airport has been chosen, we are going to put ourselves to 10 nautical mile approach. This will give us approximately 2,500 feet of altitude and will put us into pretty good flying mode. Okay, let's click and let's see what is happening. Currently it is loading a bit and we are flying. Let's put the simulator to pause. The thing is that once we became airborne, the simulator switched us to the two-dimensional panel, which is really not good. And let's switch to the three-dimensional panel, and you can use the Shift and 9 to do that. Shift 9. We are again quite low, so let's move ourselves a bit up again. So much better view. So the simulator is currently paused, and next thing, when I take the simulator off the pause, it is recommended that you change the power or the engine RPM to about 2000 RPM. It is here on the lower right is the engine RPM indicator. So the first thing is to set the power to 2000. So move the throttle lever and put the engine about 2000, somewhere around 2000. Very good. And now we are flying. Very good. What is the purpose? Let's get back to the settings, joystick and equipment dialog. There is the null zone tab, which is used to set the sensitivity of the controls, and currently all the sliders are at 25%. The purpose is to have a comfortable feedback from the controls, so that the airplane behaves the way you expect it to behave. First, let's do a couple of test flights and see how it goes and what is the task here. So let's go flying, and the first is try to push the nose a bit down and decrease the airspeed to about 100. Try to keep the horizon steady, so if the nose tries to lift, then push it down a bit. And once you have about 100, 110, then pull the nose back up and keep the horizon in the middle of the compass. and try to do it. So if the well, and just see how it goes, and wait until the speed has decreased to about 75 knots, but try to keep the horizon as steady as you can. And once you have done it, then go back to the joystick and equipment dialog, and for example, let's move the first slider, the pitch stability augmentation, all the way to the left, so that it will provide this so-called most realism. And now let's try this test again. As you can see, now the airplane responds much more rapidly. Let's increase the airspeed to 100 about. Very good. And now lift the nose up again and try to get the horizon in the middle of the compass, and try to keep it here. If the nose drops, then keep it, raise the nose and try to keep the horizon in the middle of the compass. As you probably try it out, then you see that it is much harder, as the airplane is very sensitive to any input. And let's get back to the null zone tab, and let's now put the slider all the way to the other end. And let's try to do the same exercise again. Let's push the nose down, and let's wait until the airspeed increases to about 100 knots. Okay, it is about so, and now raise the nose again, and again keep the horizon in the middle of the compass. Now you probably see that it is much easier to maintain the position of the horizon, and this is actually the task, to find suitable setting. Let's get back to the joystick and equipment. What actually this slider does, this stability augmentation. The thing is that the bigger the value for this slider is, the more X-plane works against your input. Actually it is so that whenever you make an input change, then actually X-plane somewhat resists it. But what is a resistance to change? It is actually inertia, so that you are increasing the inertia of the airplane. In real life, it would be that the heavier the aircraft is, the bigger inertia it has. So that this slider somewhat allows you to fine-tune the heaviness of the aircraft, so to say. For example, if you would put it all the way to the left, then this Cessna 172 would feel like something like 600 pound or 300 kilogram ultralight. And if you put it all the way to the right, then the weight of the aircraft, or the apparent weight of the aircraft, would increase much bigger. And the purpose is to find a suitable value which is the smallest that you can handle comfortably. I, for example, have been used to have 40% of pitch stability augmentation, so that my hands are pretty used to this level of sensitivity. Some people might say that well, the slider must always be fully left, because then it will be most realistic. Actually, I'm not that sure about it, because first there is no point talking about realistic controls when we have a joystick or yokes in our hands, consumer grade hardware. And second, we are in a simulator, and it is all about having a comfortable hardware setup that we can comfortably use. So that find yourself a suitable settings for all pitch, roll and yaw sliders. And also, let's get back to the dialogue. If the slider, if the left slider is not enough, you have got it all the way to the right, it is 100% stability augmentation, and it is still too sensitive for you, then you can start tuning the linearity response, but only after you have exceeded the stability augmentation. So that is pretty much what I wanted to cover in this video, and hope you find it useful, and please take your time to find exactly the right amount of sensitivity for your controls, and remember, airplanes are piloted with fingertips. So happy flying. Thank you.